Hey Husker fans, Sam McKewon with the Omaha World-Herald and Husker Extra, and this is the 3 keys to Michigan State. Now, listen, I know I'm wearing green today. I get that. I wasn't really thinking when I decided to record this today. So no, I'm not rooting for Michigan State. I know it's green. I get it. Michigan State's green. What I will say is that Michigan State's green is way darker than this. I mean, it is so dark that it's almost like black. And maybe they'll wear black on Saturday. They wore it against Michigan. Didn't go well for them. They lost 49-0. And Michigan State's had a rough couple of months. They're 2-6 overall. I don't think they've won a game in the Big Ten. And they have an interim head coach because their permanent head coach was fired. And so now they're in an interim head coach situation. He's probably not going to be the permanent head coach going forward. And this is also their senior day because their last home game is being played in Ford Field. So yeah, it's just been an adventuresome time for Nebraska, for Michigan State football. And so Nebraska goes up there with an opportunity to clinch a bowl. We're going to start with our first key, wedge lords. No, Nebraska, I'm not saying Nebraska should go up there and be edgy people on the internet. By no means spreading conspiracy theories. No, we're talking about playing with an edge. Playing as a wedge, right? Blowing the wedge up. Nebraska needs to go up there and be leaning forward to start this game. It's going to kick off at noon. It's not going to be a big crowd up there. Spartan Stadium, a stadium I like, by the way, great press box. But they're going to have, it's going to be pretty low key. I mean, I don't know how many fans they'll have there, 30,000 maybe. It's going to be very similar to Illinois, probably even a little quieter because people will be coming into the stadium late. Nebraska needs to lean forward. They're going to have to bring their own juice, and they got to play with edge early. They cannot allow Michigan State to get a 7-0 or 10-0 lead and play with some confidence. This is an opportunity for Nebraska to get up 7, 10 points and do some things that kind of press things forward, get Nebraska that early lead. I could see it happening with a defensive turnover, right? Creating something on the defensive side of the ball, getting things going that way. I could also see Nebraska, you know, getting a big play in the pass game, throwing it over the top, making a play that way, being dynamic and dangerous. I think Michigan State's going to allow for the possibility of a deep pass. So we'll see what Nebraska's able to do. But just playing with edge, playing tough, being dominant in that setting. If you can come out and play hard in that first quarter, I think it's going to bode well for the future. Key number 2, young cats scratch. Look, Nebraska's got a lot of young guys at this point, and they're playing. They're playing some football. I'm talking about some of the guys on defense, Princewill Umanyelen, Cam Lenhart, right? Those guys are playing really well. And then some of these guys on the offense. You got to give them a chance. Emmett Johnson, Jalen Lloyd, Malachi Coleman, Jaden Doss. Nebraska has to trust these guys to make plays, and if they trust them to make plays and they make plays, that's just going to grow their confidence. There comes a point in the course of any given college football season where a true freshman isn't really a true freshman anymore, especially a guy that's been there for 8, 9 months. Princewill Umanyelen, he enrolled early. He was there in the spring. He was there over the summer. Like, this is a guy that, yeah, he's a freshman, but he's already been through almost 2 semesters of school. He's already played a lot of football. He's already been part of that culture. This is a guy that's basically playing like what you would call, a sophomore, right? And that's where he's at this point. And I think you're going to see him really grow here in the last month. He's going to make some really good football plays. Very similar with a Malachi Coleman. You know, I know Malachi wasn't here in the spring, but he went to practice. And so I think this is a guy that I think over the course of the next month, he could make that jump. Jalen Lloyd, same thing. Jaden Doss, same thing. He's kind of getting healthy now. Watch that. Cam Lenhart's another situation. You've just got some young guys. Watch Ethan Nation, who's been around for a while. We're going to see if he may be a punt returner or something like that. The young guys got to play, and they got to make plays because Nebraska does not have a ton of health in some of their spots, and so they're just going to have to get big-time football. We're now in the last 4 games of the season, the last 4 games of the regular season, okay? So you can play all of your young guys in the next 4 games, and they get to retain their red shirt. So when you get to November, you've got a list of freshmen. Maybe they haven't played yet. Those are guys that are now going to be making some plays. You could see a Quentin Ives. It's possible, right? Because you can play him in this game, you can play him in a couple more games, and if you don't necessarily need to burn his red shirt. So this could be a Quentin Ives game. We're going to see some of these young guys over the last month, young cats scratching. Key number 3, Twisty things. Okay. Now this is a deep cut. A lot of people will not remember this. But I'm going to tell you what it is. Twisty things is a phrase that Ross Ells once used to describe something that another team did against Nebraska back when Ross was an assistant for the Huskers. And now, of course, he's at Michigan State. And so we're talking special teams, twisty things. Nebraska's got to get another twisty things up there in Spartan Stadium. Now, everybody who remembers the 2021 game likely remembers that Michigan State won it because of a Ross Ells designed punt return where they had two guys back. Daniel Cherney kicked it to the wrong side. He kicked it to the left. There wasn't anybody over on the left to cover the punt, and they ran it back for a touchdown. And that's how they decided to win that game. Despite getting no first downs in the second half, Michigan State sent it to overtime and they won there. Nebraska needs to pay Michigan State back with a twisty thing of their own. And I can remember when Ross said this, we were in the Hawks Center and I can't remember what team it was about, maybe Purdue. And he said they did some twisty things, and it's just always stuck in there. Twisty things. And so Nebraska's got to do a few twisty things of its own on special teams. Both special teams, by the way, are pretty good, but I think Nebraska's is a little bit better. And so we'll see if Nebraska's able to get an edge in the special teams. Okay, this is a game that I think Nebraska should win. They're a slight favorite. I think it's going to probably be a little ugly. I think it's going to be kind of a mall fest, slug fest on a wet, mossy grass field. Everybody's going to come off the field with grass stains. I guess I like Nebraska. I don't think Nebraska is going to be able to continue to turn the ball over 3 times a game and win every single time. But let's be honest, they're probably not going to do that every single time they take the field. And so one of these weeks, they're just not going to make those mistakes. And this could be that week. This could be the week where they don't turn it over and they play just well enough and they pull it out. I think it'll be a 5 to 7 point win. If Nebraska wins by 10 or 14, all the better. And if the Huskers win, remember, they qualify for their first bowl since after the 2016 season. That would be quite an achievement for Matt Rule, especially achieving it in the first week in November. If he's able to do that, I'm telling you, the sky's the limit. They could win the Big Ten West. He could get Big Ten Coach of the Year. Matt Rule has gotten them to the doorstep. Now it's time to go inside the house of bowl games. All right, that is our 3 keys for this week. I'm Sam McKewon with the Omaha World-Herald and Husker Extra.